What's up guys, this is RoV Gaming, your channel for fresh Arena of Valor content. I don't know if you guys have seen it on Arena of Valor socials, but in the event section there has been a collaboration announced, which is the DC collaboration, which is actually not fairly new because a lot of the characters are actually in the game and there have not been any new characters in addition to those, instead of the Caffany Harley Quinn skin that has been released a couple of months ago. But basically it boils down to Superman, Batman, Joker, Wonder Woman and the Flash. So more of the kind of famous heroes from the DC universe. Who has seen Justice League knows what I'm talking about. And I'm here to make a video on the DC King. So who is the greatest hero of all times in the DC universe? And I think that is completely unquestionable because it is the Man of Steel, Superman. Obviously he is one of the strongest, if not the strongest fighter in the DC universe. There's only one thing that can deal with him, which is kryptonite, and kryptonite is not a part of the Arena of Valor lore, making him the most powerful being in the universe. I like to play him. I don't really play him that well, but I've got a great game with me today where I can show you a lot of his combos and all that sort of things. But I think, as he is the Man of Steel and he is one of the poster boys from the whole DC universe, the DC EU, he is kind of like one of the most famous heroes out there, and he has always been a fan favorite of mine, especially since the great Harry Cavill has played him in Justice League as well. So this is kind of like a great thing to watch, and he's also a great hero to play in the game. So I've brought an item build for you, which tries to focus on the solo lane. I think you can play him in a support role. Not that crazily good, and we are going to play him as a support, so you guys are going to see what I mean. But I wanted to pick him on the solo lane, but unfortunately I was counterpicked, or kind of like later picked or something like that. So I have picked him already, and then someone else voted for the solo lane, making me play him on the dual lane, as I wanted to show this guy for you. So as you can see, we're building him as a semi-tanker. The only 3 items that deal a little bit of damage is Odin's Will. We've got Rank Breaker in here, and Muramasa for some armor pierce if we need it. Of course, these items are changeable whenever you find a team composition on the enemy team that makes you do differently. So this is basically the equipment section, and we've got the enchantments making him a little bit more durable with River Treader, Nature's Gift, and we've got Explosive Shield. It's the best enchantment in this tree. There's no doubt about it. And then we're going with Secret Bed here for ultimate gains additional cooldown reduction, and then we're going with Veda for some additional physical penetration, which he basically needs at the beginning of the game. Arcana wise, I'm going with 10 times Onslaught for some additional damage. We're going with Assassinate for some additional movement speed and some normal attacks, and then we're going with Skewer for some armor pierce. So this is basically the build consists of a hybrid in the equipment section, so we've got both damage as well as tank items. Then we're going tanky in the enchantments, and we're going damage wise in the Arcana setting. If you find yourself a little bit on the more death based side of the game, you can always switch them to Benevolence and all those sorts of Arcana if you need more health. There's plenty of that, so check that out as well. So in addition to that, I've got some gameplay for you, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to talk about counter picks, what team Superman works best with, and where his strengths and weaknesses lie. So I would say let's get started with the gameplay and finally have some action. Alright, here we go. As you can see, I'm playing Superman with one of his skins. It's the Godfall skin. I think it suits him quite well, and it looks a little bit more exclusive, a little bit more posh than the usual one because of those white appearances on his suit. It's a Superman superhero suit, so I guess that's the correct way to say it. So I have to admit the beginning of the game was a little bit rough, as I was more sorts of going in and diving in all the time. So the level of experience and the game of mechanics at the beginning of the game is not something that I want to focus on. So I'm going to focus on some things that I should talk about because of the upcoming event. So if you haven't received any of the new or the upcoming heroes from the DC things that the whole event is featuring, you will get to pick some of the champions for free, and a lot of the skins are reduced. So I was able to pick up the Caffney skin for around 1.2k instead of 2.5k, which is actually quite a bargain. Of course, I'm not advising anyone here to buy any of those skins with real money or even just get vouchers for that purpose. So if you are not into the cash game, don't do it. Not for those skins, because there was actually something on the Arena of Valor socials which was a little bit controversial, as they stated that new heroes are about to be entering the game on the one hand, and on the other hand that they said that people can still play and use the heroes that they have already gotten from the DC universe, but on the other hand they said that those heroes will be changed and you will get the new heroes instead if you have owned an old one before. So it didn't really make sense, because there were 3 different things on this Instagram post graphics. I don't really know what this is all about. It's not clarified in the game event, so I'm not really sure what it means. It just means if you are a DC fan and you want to play those heroes that you love from your childhood, or even love from all the movies out there and all the comics out there still, and you want to play them in Arena of Valor, now is your time to get them and to play the game in order to get some free heroes and some discounts on skins if you are a person who likes to own skins. Now's your chance. Later on, not so anymore. So yes, this is important, and that's all I want to say about the whole event thing. You will see that a lot of content creators are going to talk about those skins right now, because it is actually something that's kind of easy to talk about right now, because a lot of other content creators have the same tasks up their sleeve. So don't find yourself flooded. Just watch that stuff that you get here, and I think the other information will be doubled or tripled, because there's not really that much to say about it. So we're playing Superman here, and I think that now, after the really disastrous 0-3, as I'm now taking up some speed in the game, and now the game is becoming a lot better, or getting a lot better, and I can now talk about skills and teammates to fight along with if you want to pick Superman. So Superman on his own is actually a quite powerful hero, not really that dependent on help from your team if it comes to one-on-one or 1 versus 2 situations, because he has an inbuilt dispel of control because of his moveset. So you've got two different modes with Superman. The one mode is that you're just simply walking, and the other mode is that you're going to hover above the ground, making you a little bit faster, and also changing your skills to a different set of skills. So at first you've got the freeze breath, or the ice breath, so you're going to freeze enemies and slow them down. And if you are running or flying, that will be set into your laser beam eyes, which are going to push enemies away, and you will deal area of effect damage when you are hitting an enemy. It's kind of turning to the side, so it's not only straight to the front but also to the side, and you're going to deal massive amounts of damage. It's actually a really powerful ability. If you use your second ability while you're walking, you will dispel all crowd control effects that have been applied for you during that time. And if you are in flight mode, this will get I'm slamming my fist into the ground, knocking enemies back and slowing them down a little bit. And then you got your special, where you're basically flying towards the enemies, if you are in the flight mode, and if you're not in the flight mode, you get some additional buffs. So that's basically it. While there is a lot of stuff going on, because as I said, the spells do actually change a little bit. It's basically your main combo is you want to enter flight mode, you want to laser beam something with your eyes, and then you want to follow up immediately with your ice breath, because that just means that you're going to clear an entire minion wave without any of the cannon minions at once. So this is your bread and butter combo. If you then end up being CC'd by a lot of enemies, you are going to use your S2, because you are then in walking mode, and that means that if you have been CC'd, you can then use your second ability just to get rid of all the crowd control effects, and if that happened, you can then start gaining some flight meter again and start to use the same combo that you already have used with using S1 in flight mode, S1 in walk mode, and then as, oh my goodness, I didn't see him, so I was just swiping the map and I saw the indicator a little bit too late, so Batman got me with his batarang. So this is basically the main thing. I would say it's basically quite easy if you happen to have a lot of problems with a lot of crowd control, because that's basically his downfall. This is something that completely changes the whole outcome of the game. If there's a lot of CC against you, I would advise you to take Purify over Sprint, because it just means that you have a second activation, and you can even put that to the limit by getting the support item if you ever happen to play him on the support role, because that just means with Purify, your S2 and your support item, you can basically triple the effect of getting rid of crowd control effects. But I think that the support role is not the role where you want to play Superman. Superman is either a jungler or he is a top laner, and that's basically it, a solo laner. You shouldn't ever play him on any other role, because it just means that he gets a lot worse. Superman is super good at getting damage done. He's a great engager with his S1 and all the other things. I mean, even the knockback from your S2 can work from time to time as a really good engager. Then you can just hop back with your spells and get out of the trouble. And what also works quite well with him, if you have built the Hermes selected boots, the boots that give you additional speed whenever you exit a fight, you can roam pretty well with this guy. So he's also a really good jungler, because he has great gank potential with his S1 and the speed that he has initially from all of his stuff as the Superman flying attacker that he is, which I think they have transferred that from the whole lore actually quite nicely from the whole DC universe. So that was a good one. So now we get Diogen, and you see he's actually quite tanky. This is my most favorite moment. I basically got every tower shot in the entire game without dying. So he's also quite tanky after quite a while if you build some items. And as you have seen, I didn't even build him on Arcana in terms of tankiness. So Superman is a strong force on his own, but of course he gets a lot better when he is accompanied by heroes that have good range and that have some measures to follow up, because the main issue is that if you knock something back, your hero friends have to be prepared for that. So you need either continuous CC, because one of the main ideas of Superman players is sometimes to push something back from the lane into your own tower. So you're coming from the middle of the lane and trying to reverse them into your team. So you're taking the mid line, sometimes even the back line, into their front line, making them vulnerable to attacks from your front line, sometimes even your mid line. And the other version is that you're just engaging on your own, trying to make an exit immediately afterwards. And so therefore you need either range or great burst to really make use of your entrances. And the next thing that really helps you to build around Superman is some extra poke damage coming with some CC so that you can pin enemies that Superman has shoved around with his S1. So this is basically your favorite team composition. I would say a good hero to interact with Superman could be Baldoom, Lumber, or Greg in the support role. Joker is actually quite nice because he has good range, so you have another hero from the DC department. Telenas is great with him. I think even Hayate can work well with him because Hayate has great mobility, so these would be the AD carries that I would focus on. In terms of mages, I would say one of the best mages, which is Tulun, is always good. So I would say this hero works well with Superman just on his own, by his own right. But Natalia will be a good addition to him. L'Oreal not so much because she doesn't have this crazy burst. Diochen works well because she has additional CC, but I think also Azankar with some additional CC works well with Superman because it's just making him a little bit better in terms of controlling the enemies if you have additional things to bring to the table. So no doubt about that, but I think that composition should be actually quite nice. And as a jungler, I mean, Rock has some great bursts, so that worked fine, but Rock doesn't have the range on his spells or his initial attacks, so that's not really that great. Superman can work well because he can make himself invisible, so that's actually quite nice if that player knows where you are going to go and where you will start a fight. So Superman should benefit from that quite much. But I would say also heroes like strong ones like AoV, who has really good measures of trying to get into fights with her. And now I'm escaping. This is hilarious. I'm just running away, and it works so well with Superman. If you have finally succumbed that little portion of the game where you don't have sufficient health and you're bursted down, as you guys have seen at the beginning of the game. So yeah, jungler wise, I would say AoE works great. You can also do some of the other ones. Kira is great with him because she also has the burst. So I would say these are the heroes that are strong with him. And as you have already seen, quick burst and the combination of a lot of CC makes him difficult to play, especially if you have to kind of overextend a little bit to get into the enemies, because you just don't have that much to do against crowd control effects at the beginning of the game. So yeah, that's about that. So the enemies have surrendered, and I think you have seen a good comeback because I was getting 0-3 at the beginning of the game, not really paying that much attention to what was going on, playing him a little bit too aggressive. You should play him aggressively, but not as aggressive as I were. And all in all, I think the performance was okayish, up to good at the later stages of the game. And you've got a really good toolbox with Superman at hand if you ever want to play him. So this is a 569 with 10.2 in total. Not the greatest gold, so his farm is not that crazy if you are flying around all the time. We tanked most damage, and damage was not the best, but I was flying around a lot, so I think it is acceptable. So thanks for watching. Let me know what you think about the DC heroes in the game right now, what they should do about them. And if you like the video, of course, a thumbs up and a subscription is super appreciated. So thanks for watching and have a nice evening. Bye bye.